Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 162 of the Assorted Calibers podcast, the second amendment podcast that is a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and there is no Aaron Paulette. Oh God, there is no Aaron Paulette. So I had to get like two chuckleheads as a barely suitable replacement to her. My apologies going out. We have chucklehead number one, Oddball.
Yay, I'm number one.
And chucklehead number two.
I'm number two. We try harder.
Why do you call me Mr. Brown?
Of course, I was going to say is, this tonight's episode was supposed to be a round table, but without Aaron, it's a hemi-circle.
We're literally doing this at a card table. It's fine.
The kids' table.
The kids' table. Yes, and we're all eating spaghetti out of a bowl with a clown in the bottom of it.
Yep, and one of us has to keep our foot under the short leg.
That's what Kitty's tail is for.
No. Be nice to Kitty.
Just a little bath.
Never again. Never again. Kitty gets into something like that, Kitty gets bundled and taken to the vet for them to, because they have sedatives.
Have you given a kitty a bath?
See, you're triggering my PTSD. Yes, I had to bathe a cat.
I have, and it wasn't too long ago that I had to give a kitty a bath.
And how much blood did both of you lose?
Actually, none. The trick is you stand in the middle of the shower and keep the door closed. And when you turn the water on, the cat runs around the outside of the shower until it gives up.
Well, this wasn't that simple. It was a friend's cat. They had the can of bacon grease on the back of the stove.
Oh.
Yeah, you know where this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kitty decided it smelled interesting. Pulled it over.
Well,
to the cat. And that does not come out without soap.
It's better than the reason why I recently gave a cat a shower, which was I was taking my morning shower, and then I heard Panya yelp. And as I was finishing up the shower, she opened the door and handed me a kitty who had fallen into the toilet just after Panya had used the toilet, but before she could flush.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just okay, close the door, turn the water back on.
Well, there.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yes. Yes, but it's great fodder for the blooper reel.
Yes, except no, this is the actual show.
This is going in the main show, man.
Yep, but yeah, that's but those that don't know, irrelevant stories like that are definitely part of the blooper reel. It's like the intro goes on forever.
This is the intro that never ends. It goes on and on, my friends.
Well, I did quote you, David, in the latest blooper reel that you probably haven't had a chance to listen to yet, where I point out the fact that you say that marriage is two people asking each other what's for dinner until one of them dies. That's
what I've heard.
Yeah, and then another one. My wife sent me a throw pillow that said marriage is like a sleepover with your favorite weirdo for the rest of your life.
Aw.
It was pretty cute.
And when you said she sent you a pillow, I was thinking, did she throw it from across the room, and was there a brick in it? Mm-hmm. But then you read the saying, and I figured probably not. And then there was then essentially an ACP blooper reel is a bunch of weirdos sitting around asking what we're going to watch for a movie. Until one of them dies.
Until all of them die.
You're not wrong.
I mean, there was quite
Sometimes we come in with movie ideas to begin with.
Yes, it was mostly them saying no to me wanting to watch Mulholland Falls, and don't worry, guys, it's no longer streaming.
Oh, see, I did want to watch it. It was just emotionally, it was a little too dark and deep for me at that.
I hear you.
But I do like that movie. It is dark.
I gotcha. Well, either way, if those of you who hadn't noticed, it seems like the Second Amendment news is extremely thick on the ground, and the last several ACP Assorted Calibers podcasts have been just gobs and gobs of news. So we decided that, you know what, let's just, it was thick. So we decided, let's do a round table where we can just sit around and discuss the news rather than worrying about various segments.
And now the news.
Yeah. And so where do we want to start? Actually, I want to start. This is not the order of and I'm probably just going to copy and paste the links in the show notes exactly how we've got it listed here.
Yep.
So, but we have, where was it? Yes. Well, let us start with Chipman Watch.
Oh, yes.
Chipman.
The story is from Fox News, and it says, White House silent on if it's confident Biden's beleaguered ATF nominee will be confirmed by the Senate.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when not the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is pretty much about as partisan as you can get. Not that all the media isn't partisan to some degree or another, but the I guess you call it second tier mainstream media, when they reported on Chipman having left his service weapon in was it a public bathroom?
Nope, it was in his personal automobile in the parking lot.
Okay. Oh, there was another story that was tied into that. That was like, here's a list of other law enforcement agents who have left their firearms elsewhere. But yeah, so the fact that he was not responsible with his department issued firearm, and they want him to be in charge of the agency that is all about dealing with people who are not responsible with firearms.
Right.
I thought that was a pretty serious blow.
Well, and also during the hearings, so you want to ban assault weapons? Yes. Define assault weapons.
I don't know what they are, but I know them when I see them.
That's up for Congress to decide. So, well, but you said you wanted to ban them, so surely you know what they are.
Mm-hmm. And basically any semi-automatic firearm.
Yep. And the irony of him saying, well, I mean, my job is to enforce the laws. It's up to Congress to make the laws. Meanwhile, the ATF is deciding whether or not to define pistol braces and bump stocks, and it's all being done by the ATF.
And armor-piercing pistol ammunition.
Yes. This stuff is all being done by the ATF and enforced by the ATF with really no input from Congress whatsoever.
Well, Congress has, what's the word for, abdicated their responsibility with not just the ATF, but a number of these agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And they've basically, for several decades now, this is not in any particular administration's bucket, but for several decades now, Congress has basically more and more been saying, let them just make the regulations and we'll see if it works. You can go back to was it the 80s, I think, late 80s, with the EPA, with some of their shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, right now it's the ATF, but the ATF, this is not at all new. I remember reading an article in one of the gun magazines from the 70s, and it was telling a story from probably a decade earlier about the ATF quote-unquote cowboys. And there was this school teacher. He was at home. He was taking a bath, and one of his students reported he had a hand grenade. Whether he did or not, whether it was live or not, wasn't known. Mm-hmm. But the ATF showed up, not in uniform, some of them with beards, no IDs showing, burst into his house. And like I said, he's in the tub. He grabbed a cap and ball revolver that was on the stool next to the tub, and they shot him. And he was paralyzed from the waist or waist down, something. There was either no grenade or it was a dummy. You could buy in a surplus.
Also very similar to, I'm trying to remember if it was ATF. I think it was the Ogden police, but it was a gentleman. He was a veteran, and I believe they confirmed that he was growing marijuana, supposedly to treat his PTSD. I'm not going to make judgment call one way or another on whether that's a good idea or works or not. But either way, he was doing that. He was holding down a steady job at a Walmart distribution center. And rather than wait for him to go to the gun-free zone and arrest him there, they decided to kick down his door after he went to bed that morning because he worked a night shift.
Yeah, and this is a guy who has PTSD.
Yep, and served. So of course, PTSD and served. He's got an AR-15 by the bed. He hears somebody kick down the door. I believe it was like a ranch-style house, so it was a fairly large footprint. So even if they had announced who they were when they kicked in the door, it would be very deniable of whether or not he actually heard that. And I think he shot and killed one of them, and ended up fleeing out the out the back and like jumped a fence and all that, and eventually was apprehended. And unfortunately, he ended up taking his own life in prison.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tragic, but this, as we've discussed before, anytime a law is passed, that is the ultimate result. Is this law worth killing someone in their bed over?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess
if you think the answer is yes, then you should be the one to stack up first.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we also have the whole statement of course, you've got, if you're, pro Second Amendment, this guy is an anti-gun lobbyist and a staunch activist and all that. So he's a direct threat to the Second Amendment. No matter how you want to slice it. If you are from the anti-gun, more left-wing group of it, he is a corporate special interest lobbyist.
Could we say shill?
Yes, he is a shill, and he is and he's doing gun control for money. So maybe you don't want to support him. Furthermore, he's got allegations of sexism and racism, and of course, he lost a service pistol, and so he's
which is often a firing offense, but apparently was not in his case.
Mm-hmm. And then, lastly, you've got, if he ends up getting confirmed and does a terrible job of it, well, it can always be noted in your campaign that, hey, this person voted for the anti-gun, sexist, racist, awful ATF director. That didn't seem to deter him. And then look what it got him. We warned him. So
the problem is when somebody horrible is appointed by an administration, is the worst that's going to happen to that administration is they don't get reelected.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, it could be used as a cudgel against an individual that voted for him. So I suspect that Joe Manchin is going to continue giving this a big old leaving alone. All right, I want to shift gears one more time to this is on the same level. Use
the clutch this time.
Well, I don't need to. This one here is worthy of the cry some more sound effect.
Wah! Cry some more.
Is this the one that I posted up, or
maybe not? You know what? I think I actually didn't see that one because you posted that one just as I got in here, and I've been talking to you guys ever since. But this one, the title says it all. Progressive groups urge U.S. media to prioritize accuracy in culture war topics. And
and this has there is a just big money quote in the article.
Read the money quote.
Yeah, read the money. Do the thing.
In gun violence prevention, Wesolowski said, the media often failed to note large majorities of Americans support proposals such as universal background checks. In another example, large majorities of both gun owners and non-gun owners oppose allowing people to carry a concealed weapon without permit or training. The next
paragraph is a nice tie into that.
Oh, the gun rights movement has gotten far more extremist.
The voices we're seeing in so much news really are just not a reflection of the majority of Americans. Well, yeah, that's because it's the newscasters. They're not a reflection of the majority of Americans.
But just how many times have we heard the media state that, oh no, 90% of Americans want universal background checks
or X, Y, or Z gun law, and then if it not only is it nope, but it's when they on the rare occasion that they release any of their data collection, they called 90 people in New York.
Right.
90 people in LA.
And the large majority of both gun owners and non-gun owners oppose permitless carry or constitutional carry. So yeah, that's why there's been a recent movement that has gotten. We are rapidly approaching half of the country.
Yeah, I think it's 2022, soon to be 23.
I believe it's 23 by the end of the year. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So couple more states join in, and permitless carry becomes the majority of the country.
Yeah.
And I'm just, you've all seen, I'll see if I can find it for the show notes, but it's the GIF of changing from shall issue to may issue.
I believe you just type in concealed carry into Wikipedia, that'll come up.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did something similar.
And I mean, technically, that the figures with the 23 states allowing permitless carry or constitutional carry, a lot of times that figure does not include the states that have always allowed open carry without
right, like Vermont.
Well,
Vermont allows any carry.
Well, no. Vermont is listed in that, but places like Michigan and I think Indiana that allow open carry without a permit. Okay. You just need a permit to conceal carry. That figure does not include those states.
Right. Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood. But back to my point about the right to carry movement from may issue to shall issue. That started with Florida in like 86 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
To the point that now pretty much every single state has some form of carry. Restricted as it might be in places like New York and Chicago and so forth. But we're now getting to the permitless movement is going in the same direction. And I would like to see that continuing because, like I said, shall issue to may issue. I'm sorry, may issue to shall issue.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got that reversed. Went national over less than 20 years, and it was the majority of the country.
Yeah, and frankly, permitless carry or constitutional carry has been going at that speed.
Maybe even a little faster.
Yeah, because I mean, Vermont and Alaska they've allowed it for a very long time, if not forever.
Well, I said, Vermont, it was when they became a state that was part of their state constitution.
Yeah, and
Alaska and then Arizona, I think, were the next two.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago that it was referred to as Vermont carry.
Yeah. Yep, Vermont carry was the term, and then Alaska, and shortly thereafter, I believe, Arizona. And now, Weer'd, north of you, none of those states require a permit to carry anymore, do they?
No. Nope. Now Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire are all permitless carry states.
Yep.
To which I deeply enjoy.
Yeah. Should we clarify the difference between permitless carry and constitutional carry for any of the listeners?
Why don't you?
Okay. Basically, it's a difference in the structure of the law. With permitless carry, the law is written more or less. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. I have not stayed in a Holiday Inn Express. But more or less, with a permitless carry environment, the law states that carrying a firearm is illegal unless. And then there's the list of exemptions. Having a permit, you're exempt. Law enforcement officer, you're exempt. Well, then they add, for example, the Tennessee law that just passed earlier this year was if you would otherwise qualify for an enhanced carry permit, then you are exempt with these few additional restrictions. So that's permitless carry. Can't do it unless. True constitutional carry is you can do it unless, which means that there is a blanket allowed unless there's a specific reason to deny. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just kind of one of my button issues is having people refer to Tennessee as constitutional carry. Mm-hmm. We've made a big step in the right direction. We're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
But if most of the country, if 26 states have some form of permitless carry in the next few years, then the next issue would be reciprocity, because one of the reasons that people in Tennessee, for example, are still filling the rooms, at least in our area, to get their permits is because if they cross the border into any of the adjoining states or any states beyond those, they can't carry without a license. So that would be the next thing, is getting these constitutional or permitless carry states to start recognizing each other. Because, again, I'm more familiar with Tennessee these days, and New York is easy enough to just say no. But with Tennessee, if you have a valid permit from any other state, and then there's no distinction made between resident or non-resident. If you are not a resident of Tennessee and you have a valid permit from any other state, you're good to go here. But you have to have the permit.
Yep.
So people coming to Tennessee from Vermont, since Vermont has no permit option, legally cannot carry in Tennessee.
They can, because I don't know if it's been upheld by a major court, but one thing Vermonters who travel can do is to go to their chief law enforcement officer and get it written up on letterhead.
Right. But there's no actual permit. They have to get some type of documentation. What I would like to see is after, or as maybe in parallel with the permitless carry, constitutional carry movement, is getting these states to agree. Yeah, if someone from your state shows up in ours and they have, they're going to Kentucky, they've got a Tennessee driver's license, we're assuming they're good unless they show us a reason not to. And that's how driver's licenses worked until the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Well, there. Shall we move to the Oddball? What was the story you put in?
The story I put in was about from 538. The headline was, "More people are buying guns. Fewer people are getting background checks." Which
okay, I just read the subtitle. Amid a surge in gun sales, the FBI did not complete over 316,000 gun background checks last year.
Yeah, Aaron and I covered this last week, and I was confused because in these stories, they never mention the quote unquote Charleston loophole, so I was just assuming it was something different, but that's more or less what it is.
No, they are very much mentioning the Charleston loophole.
In this article, they are.
Yeah, and in fact, this article is a piece basically saying, well, this is why we need to get rid of that loophole and just, no, you can't buy the gun until we've done your background check. And the thing that stood out to me with this was, one, and of course, their own article proves that the headline is a lie, that it's not that fewer people are getting background checks. In fact, more people are getting background checks and getting responses back, but there are more of those background checks that are hitting the 3-day delay. And not only that, but apparently, I'm not sure if it's self-imposed or if it's in the law, there is another time limit that the FBI has 90 days to. Okay, yeah, the Bureau's regulations require it to stop work and delete the background check from its computers after 90 days.
Yes, that was part of the no registry.
Right, and in the quote, in the first 9 months of 2020, the FBI deleted 316,912 unfinished background checks. So not only did it go past the 3-day, the 3 business day rule, but they didn't complete the background check after 90 days.
According to the article, deleting unfinished background checks after 88 days is a matter of FBI regulations.
Okay, cool. I was off by 2 days.
Yes, but that's kind of funny because you guys know on the internet what the whole 88 thing is?
This is true. Which they helpfully say 3.4% of all the checks it processed in the first 9 months of 2020. So if they had their way and you just had to wait till your background check was done,
could be a year.
Last year most of the year in 2020, basically 3.5% of all people buying firearms would possibly still be waiting on that background check to be done. Not, these are people that shouldn't be sold guns because they're felons or whatever, but don't sell that gun because we have no idea. And
some businesses have policies that if there's a delay and they don't hear back in 3 days, that they won't sell the gun.
Right, which is their policy. Right. Yeah.
I don't happen to agree with it, but it is within their rights as a business. Just like others will say, you got a delay. Okay, it's 3 days. We haven't heard back. It's yours.
Right. But we have there's a friend of the show that on the day he went to pick up his machine gun after his NFA request processed and all of that, he went to the shop to pick up his machine gun and saw a .22 pistol that he just decided he needed to have. So he went to purchase that, and that went past the 3 business days. Which, remember, that's 3 business days. Which
starting the next business day.
Right, starts the next business day, and that is a full day. So if you buy it at noon on Monday, it doesn't start until the beginning of the day on Tuesday and doesn't end until end of business day Thursday. So you can't actually pick up your gun until Friday.
Right. And if you're there after noon on Friday and Monday is a holiday, then it doesn't start till Tuesday either.
Right.
So you purchase the gun on Friday, you can't get it for a week.
Right. So, and again, this was a guy that was going to pick up his machine gun and had just had that check done for him. Mm-hmm. So chances are, as long as he didn't commit a felony driving to the store, he was good. And these people are saying, no, this should have gone out past that, and possibly it could have taken the full 90 days, or at which point when is it going to show up? I don't know. That's not a theoretical. That we have hard data to show that happens.
Oh yeah, and of course the whole key is nobody's on the behind the switch, and so therefore all they need to do is find some way to put a hold on you. Don't even need to convict you in anything, and ta-da, your Second Amendment's gone. Especially if universal background checks are in place where you can only buy at a licensed gun shop.
Right. Now, I do want to. There was another story from another friend of the show where he was in a store to pick up a gun, or he went into a store. He decided, I'll buy that gun. And while they were processing his checkout, he said, you know what? I'll take that other gun too.
I know this friend of the show.
Yes.
Well, yes, I am very familiar with this gentleman.
You see him in the mirror every time you shave.
Yes.
He may have biblical relations with that gentleman.
Yes. Now, I did recently find out in Tennessee it's a little bit different.
Because ticks. Which I still think is the most honestly named government program.
Oh, yeah. But I looked it up today, in fact. And with ticks, it's not 3 business days. It's 72 hours starting at when the call comes in.
Yes. Which is much better for the purchaser.
Oh, yeah.
Does put a little bit of a crunch because, they do that at after 5 o'clock on a Friday.
Right. And again, if it's like Memorial Day weekend or something like that.
Well, you got 72 hours.
Yep.
But the office is closed. Not my problem.
Yep.
It kind of reminds me with those types of things is the signage law that was changed in 2019 for 2020, or 2018 for 2019 rather, that the sign has to be, the circle must be 4 inches by 4 inches minimum. The slash must be at a 45-degree angle from top left to bottom right. All that. It's like, yeah, somebody got pissed and decided to just.
Mm-hmm.
That was just beautiful.
So, shall we shift to more terrible laws and horrible enforcement of it?
Sure, if we have to.
So this headline, I think I've got 2 here. New York AG could try to sue gun manufacturers under new law.
Now, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is if the federal government passes a law saying you cannot do something, can a state pass a law saying yes, you can?
So this gets trickier when it comes to because it's not criminal law. Nope.
It's not criminal law, but still the supremacy clause applies across the board.
Right. And their argument, because they made this argument with, I think, the case against Bushmaster. They made the argument of, well, we're not suing you in federal court. We're suing you in state court.
And what was the result of that?
I honestly don't remember.
The case got dismissed because it violated the what was that law called? Protection of Commerce and Arms Act.
Yeah. So it did get dismissed. I knew their first lawsuit did, where against Lucky Gunner.
Actually, no. I think I was thinking of Lucky Gunner. I think Bushmaster settled because they just didn't want the legal costs. I'll have to check on that.
I don't know about in the Sandy Hook story, but I do know that they did settle when the DC snipers were caught, and it turned out that the rifle they were using was a Bushmaster.
Or it may be that that was about the time that the Freedom Group killed Bushmaster, and they went, well, Bushmaster no longer exists. Ta-da!
Mm-hmm.
There's that too.
But yeah, just saying that, well, in New York, we can still sue gun manufacturers because reasons. It is just...
And I'll add, they say in just about every article that covers this that the Protection Lawful of Commerce and Arms Act is somehow granting special powers to...
privileges, special privileges.
Yeah.
Right.
And so to gun makers, and so because they're being especially protected. But again, the greatest example is, of course, a drunk driver. They get loaded on Bud Light, they hop in their Cadillac, and they drive on the wrong side of the road and wipe out a family. According to this logic, we could sue both Budweiser and Cadillac because those were used in the criminal act of drunk driving.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or more to the point, if I remember correctly, there was an incident where terrorists of certain persuasions rented a U-Haul truck.
Oh, you're talking about the Swedish separatists, right?
Yeah, must have been them, and drove into a large group of people and ran over as many people as they could, and clearly. The victims and the families of the victims should be able to sue U-Haul and the manufacturer of the U-Haul trucks, which is Chevy, I think, is typically what those trucks are.
Chevy and Ford, I believe.
Yeah.
So whichever one made that one.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the gas station down the street that they filled the tank up with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In somebody else's page, on a similar note to that, they proposed banning guns that are used in mass killings, and somebody brought up, so you want to ban gasoline?
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a nightclub arson.
Yeah.
That, everybody inside died because the guy had a gallon of gasoline.
Yep.
So I think that qualifies as a mass killing.
So hopefully, and I'm trying to remember, is this officially in law? Is it going to be in law?
I think it's officially law now.
Yes. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo on Tuesday signed a law passed by the Democrat-controlled state legislature that allows guns to be considered a public nuisance and opens the floodgates for lawsuits against gun manufacturers.
Right. Of course,
I love this. This is from Princess Cuomo. Mm-hmm. The only industry in the United States of America immune from lawsuits are the gun manufacturers.
Which is
actually the only industry immune from lawsuits is generally the government.
Right, which is one of those other gun-related lies that the media constantly pulls out. Of course, didn't Cuomo also say that he's going to... He thinks that they should do to the gun industry to gun violence what they did with the COVID crisis?
Yes, so they're going to be gathering up older people and locking them in buildings and shooting them.
Yes,
I mean you're not exactly wrong.
Yeah, but the Post, the New York Post, which can always be counted on for entertainment value at least. So the Post published a rebuttal by the NRA. So the NRA is actually doing something in New York for the people who blast them. How can there be a gun violence state of emergency in New York when the state has arguably the harshest gun laws in the country? Governor Cuomo has been in office for over a decade, and he has had every opportunity to get it right. He has failed miserably, and today was nothing more than a doubling down on more of the same failed politics.
I mean, not wrong.
Not wrong at all.
All right.
And one of the comments on that article, will they allow alcoholics to sue Budweiser? Will they allow fat people to sue McDonald's? Will they allow kids to sue their parents for being born? Will they allow people with heartburn to sue the habanero farmers? Yep. So I think we've kind of beaten on that one a little bit.
I think so. I think so. It is a super duper dumb law. Here's a good headline here. This one, pandemic gun violence surge was not linked to rise in gun sales, study finds.
Yes, I saw that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for some reason they're blaming loss of jobs, economic challenges, closing of schools, and basically the lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously that can't be right because
right,
those things have been around forever, whereas guns were just from 2020. Oh
well, no. And also I know we try not to talk about politics too much on the main show, but
we try not to be.
There's also the issue that if you look at the rhetoric on the left since at least 2014, I've actually been kind of surprised that it took so long to get to what was going on last year.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, when everyone who opposes you is an evil demon Nazi,
yeah,
eventually they embrace that.
That and, calling yourself the resistance and saying we need to, resist and
we need to go out and fight and get in their face
my side's violence is freedom of speech and your speech is violence and even your silence is violence.
Yes, that was my favorite one, was the person wearing a t-shirt that basically said, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but if speech is violence and silence is violence, why don't we just cut to violence? Or something along those lines. Yeah, because you can't win for losing.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, it's interesting was I was looking at this article, and there was one part. Let me see if I can find that again. Yeah. Even though the homicide rate across big cities remains close to half of what it was in the 1990s, basically referencing the statistical fact that homicide rates have been dropping for 25 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some politicians have used the single-year jump in killings to paint Democrats and the Biden administration as soft on crime. Well, we've got Kamala Harris in there. We know she's not soft on crime.
Well, and frankly, even though I know they've recently started saying, "Oh no, it's those evil Republicans that want to
defund the police." Yes.
Defund the police.
I love The gaslighting is just amazing.
They say stuff. They say stuff like that, and then are shocked when we don't believe what they say.
Well, the problem is for a lot of people, the current news. Oh man, I just lost the word to say. Story.
Mm-hmm.
Not what I was going to use, but the current news story is the only story. The previous story is the past and can be ignored.
Right.
So,
yeah.
It's a more short-term version of back in the 70s, we were approaching a new ice age. Then in the 90s and aughts, it was the overheating of the planet.
Right, and now it's just simply change.
Right. Now it's not 30 years. Now it's last month, or if you go long-term, last administration.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. There were. I'm old enough to remember when people were legitimately stating that, oh yeah, no, the polar ice caps will all be melted and gone by 2000.
Yep.
Well,
I remember when they were talking about how the newfangled horseless carriages were going to put all the stables out of business.
This is true.
I might as well get that out of the way before Weer'd jumped on it.
Well, and it's another one of those things that the ATF reality is the stuff that the EPA has been put in charge of, and their overall goal. Okay, I am with the idea of I want clean air and clean drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there was a serious issue before mandate of catalytic converters. And it's the question of where do we set the emission standards so that it's actually possible with technology that exists or will exist in the next 5 years.
And that was where the CAFE standards started.
Right. Yeah.
And now they're to the point where they either have to make the cars more dangerous because they're building out of lighter and lighter materials,
while ironically actually putting out heavier and heavier vehicles overall.
But crumple zones, brilliant idea. Let the car take the impact, not the passengers, and they've come up with some amazing developments. But if you look at it, the gas mileage is going up at the expense of almost everything else.
Right.
Including, if it wasn't for some of the materials technology, passenger safety.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, so you have the EPA has done some good stuff, like the river in Cleveland is not flammable anymore. But on the flip side, you have things like I can't buy a gas can that's worth a damn.
Because the person who redesigned it had never had to use a gas can.
Right. I have yet to use a gas can since the forced redesign, where I haven't spilled a couple cups of gasoline on the ground or on myself or whatever, fighting with the nozzle.
I have also done the exact same thing. Yeah, you sit there and no gas comes, and then eventually you get going. Next thing you know, there's
the gas.
Yeah, there's gas all over your hair.
Right. Or
there's actually a company that makes retro display nozzles.
Right. Or nozzles that are only supposed to be used on gas cans that were made before whatever. Yeah.
Yep. Or on containers for water containers or other stuff.
And also, I've had I bought a gas can bought a gas can in the 90s, and that gas can lasted until I was starting to worry about between the interaction with the gasoline and the plastic and UV damage. I was starting to worry about the structural integrity of the plastic of the can.
Right. The next one you bought.
I buy them now, and they break on me in a year or two because of the overly complicated spring nozzle things that they have to put on them.
Yep. Yeah, there's also apparently instructions on the interwebs to disable the quote-unquote safety features.
Right, yeah.
Because, reasons. The EPA, as with every one of these agencies, they've all done good things. Well, most of them have done good things. But they then go beyond their mandate, and they start making their own regulations, and they're not waiting for Congress to pass laws that they would then enforce.
Yep.
So
right.
we've got these unregulated federal agencies like the EPA, like ATF. But anyway, they have these unregulated federal agencies that are simply passing regulations that are not laws,
right,
but are being enforced as if they were, with the threat of violence.
Right. And there's no sanity check to them. I know theoretically there's stuff in place that's supposed to be a sanity check, but in practice, they're not sanity checks. Things like, yes, we'll put out, for the regulation, we'll put out where you can submit comments. We don't actually have to pay attention to these comments, but we're supposed to accept them. And also there is the issue, which is the same with laws, of once you pass it, once it goes into play, into effect, it is very difficult to get rid of it because,
or in many cases, even modify.
Because, for example, let's take Tennessee's stance on alcohol and firearms. Tennessee's stance is, if you're carrying a gun, not a drop is to pass your lips.
Right.
There are other states that, and notably, these are states that had these laws in place long before Tennessee did.
Right. So it might just be a game of catch-up.
Those states say, yeah, you can belly up to the bar and you can have a beer with dinner. As long we'll treat it as,
if you can't drive, you can't have a gun.
Right. Right. So as long as you don't blow over a .08, you're good.
Yep. Or you start misbehaving.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of those things of, and if you look at DUI instances, you almost never see someone getting hit with a DUI who was at .09,
right,
.10. It's always, oh no, you blew way past that mark.
You're at .24.
Right.
How are you conscious?
It's also very difficult because they may have the breathalyzer that they can administer while the person's sitting in the seat of their car, but for it to be legally miscible in court, it needs to be the legally binding calibrated machine that they keep at the station, and so,
which is X amount of time later.
Yes. So therefore you need to determine that they are driving drunk and arrest them for drunk driving, then get them back and process them and search them for weapons and all the stuff that you need to do to get somebody into a essentially a testing room, a holding cell at the police station, for them to blow into the calibrated big bad mamma jamma machine to get the blood alcohol content. Yeah. If at that point, if you showed up and you blew a just legally drunk on that, they might, give you a stern talking to and let you go, only because by the time they get you back to the station, there's a good chance that you won't be legally drunk anymore. And that's the miscible in court part.
Well, and I believe that actually varies from state to state.
Yes.
Just saying. But at any rate, back to what I was saying. So if you wanted to bring the law in Tennessee down to where it is in, like, I know Indiana has the law saying as long as you're not at DUI levels, you're cool. And they don't really have an issue with, they don't have a bunch of folks showing up at the bar, downing a couple drinks, and then shooting up the place.
In New Hampshire, we had an incident a few years ago where somebody came into a bar to cause problems, and one of the patrons shot him.
Right.
Which obviously shouldn't have happened. The person coming in to cause trouble should have been allowed to cause trouble peacefully.
Right. But if you go back and try to fix that law, what you're going to get is a lot of people screaming that, oh my God, you want armed individuals getting drunk. That's going to be the message. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty much what the message was when Tennessee passed the law, just saying that you could carry in an establishment that served alcohol, even though it explicitly said, yes, you can sit down and have a meal at Applebee's. You just can't order a beer for yourself while you're eating your cheap steak or whatnot.
Cheap, salty, fatty, butter-covered steak.
I've had a couple tasty steaks at Applebee's. I've also had a couple not so tasty ones. So, but
the question is, when you get a steak at Applebee's, is what animal was it actually? But anyway, back to your point, which I agree with, is there's no rationality or logic. It's all about teams.
Right.
Even if, it's, we saw this during the Trump administration. Trump would propose something and it would be shouted down as the worst, most evil thing ever. And then a politician from the other group of lizards would propose something nearly identical. Oh, it's the greatest thing ever. Why can't Trump do things like this?
Actually, I have a better example for my analogy.
Okay, I was just going with generals, but if you
this straight up happened. A couple years ago in the state of Tennessee, a lot of states, and I would venture most states,
you would venture, brother,
have a ban against explosives with a carve out that allows things like tannerite and et cetera, et cetera. And for years, everyone in the state of Tennessee just went under the assumption that tannerite was perfectly legal for you to walk into the shop, buy, go, and blow up in your back 40. I bought some at the academy down the street from me.
Allegedly.
No, there's video of it. And if folks want to come after me for a bill for that, yeah. But everybody presumed that was perfectly legal. Somebody actually looked up the law and went, "Oh, wait, it's not legal."
It's like, oh crap, we've been misreading this for a decade.
Yeah. So, in a drunken, blinding move of logic, the Tennessee legislature, as soon as it was brought to their attention, somebody put up a bill legalizing the stuff.
Which, again, that's what sensible legislatures do, is...
Right.
Oh, we thought this was the way it was as well. We didn't realize, or either that, or, well, we'd have to arrest half the state.
Yeah. And both in committee and on the general floor, there were a bunch of people who were crying that this was going to cause children to explode and all of this craziness, and it'll just be wild mania and insanity.
Not because of tannerite, simply because tannerite would now be legal. Children just randomly explode.
Yes, and we can't make this legal because it's a terrible health and safety risk, blah, blah, blah. To which a bunch of other folks went,
shut up, you're being silly.
Stores have been selling this in the state of Tennessee for years. If it was going to be an issue, it would have been an issue by now. And my favorite was in one of the committees, one of the legislatures, I think from Memphis, actually stood up and spoke and said, okay, while we've been discussing this, I've looked up the stuff on YouTube, and this stuff looks like a lot of fun. And if we don't legalize it, I'm going to Kentucky and using it up there.
It is a lot of fun.
And he said, yeah, I was on the fence about it, so I was looking it up on my phone, and yeah, no, we're good. It's not a fire risk. People have been using it for years anyways, and haven't been blowing up schools with it.
Yep. I mean, they occasionally will blow up a refrigerator too close to themselves or a lawnmower and take their own leg off.
Yeah, there is that, but
yeah, my wife has said that I cannot use tannerite in my shooting bay.
And I have to agree with your wife. It pains me, but
not to agree with her, but to agree with her on this.
Yeah.
Because the shooting bay is like 20 feet from the windows to the home office where she works.
Well, that, and it also, you did that great excavation of the berm, and I would imagine it's not the deepest bay that you've on Earth that you've created. So
it's close to 6 feet at the back.
Tall, or
yeah, it's almost 6 feet deep at the back.
But I'm just saying, how close to the berm would you put the container of tannerite?
Oh, pretty much right against the back.
Yeah, I think that would jack up your berm quite a bit.
It would. Well, considering the story I'm about to tell, there would be showers of clay.
Yes,
because
there would.
A friend of ours, Oddball, you know him. Jack has one of his holsters.
Okay, yeah.
Came by yesterday with his brother and his brother's girlfriend. His brother had driven down from up north with some of their dad's firearms. Mm-hmm. His friend's father also passed away at 20. And one of them was an SKS. I think it was Yugoslav, the one that has the built-in grenade launcher spigot.
Yugos, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yugos. Yeah. And SKSs are just fun.
They are fun.
Yeah.
And so we're blasting that at about 20, 25 feet into a clay wall, and clay is blasting out the front of the targets. Mm-hmm. And then the brother pulls out the Mosin Nagant. So we are shooting a Mosin Nagant into a clay wall from about 20 to 25 feet.
And since it's a Mosin Nagant, you may have been standing 20, 25 feet, but the muzzle was closer to 10 or 15.
Well, my joke was that we should unfold the bayonet. And that way, we could just lean forward and poke the target. If it was one of the M44 carbines? Yeah. The M44 carbines, we could have done it from 10 feet and set the targets on fire.
There you go.
But anywho, there's so much legislation across the board, not just in firearms. I'm sure we've all run into these things. One that actually Oddball and I were talking about in a side conversation not long ago, that up until recently in Tennessee, it was illegal to purchase alcohol on Sunday.
Yes.
Because
it's the holy day.
Drinking in church.
Right.
Well, and it's still illegal to buy alcohol on Sunday before noon.
Right, because you're supposed to be in church. Now, personally, I think that, for someone like me, I should be allowed to buy alcohol on Sunday, just not on Saturday.
And of course,
more complicated.
And of
because
course,
it's not a religious law.
And sorry, you could buy beer on Sunday, just not before noon.
Oh,
because before noon on Sunday, that's church. After noon on Sunday, that's football.
That's when you have to have beer for that. But then they opened it up to basically all spirits. Wine and hard liquor are now purchasable on Sunday after.
Yep.
But I believe, is it still not allowed on holidays? Or is that also?
They were discussing getting rid of that. I can't remember if they got rid of the holiday thing or not. My favorite of those was, and it still may be, illegal to buy alcohol on New Year's Day.
Yeah, because a lot of those people who are still sober on New Year's Day are going to be going out and buying booze, right?
And those that aren't interested in procuring more alcohol on New Year's Day.
If they're lucky, they won't wake up until the 2nd. But there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm sure that every one of our listeners has seen a link to or browsed themselves one of the silly laws websites.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites was in someplace in New York. This law still exists. It is illegal to ride a horse in a swimming pool.
I always want to know what the stories behind those are.
Hells yeah.
Water polo.
That's a hysterical story. It doesn't matter. But it's what happens when you pass laws for fringe occurrences.
Mm-hmm.
And when you pass laws following an emotional event. Laws should never be passed on emotion. They should always be passed on cold reflection. Unfortunately, we've lost that.
My favorite of the ones that really there are people arguing that this shouldn't be fixed is the New Jersey and Oregon laws saying that you can't pump your own gas.
Yes, Oregon has partially fixed that. They've now made it optional in, I think, most parts of the state. But my favorite part of the Oregon one was all of the people. I mean, I'm sure it was a small percentage, but they were loud. But the Oregon residents saying, "I've never had to pump gas in my life. I don't even know where the gas cap is on my car."
Well, and the people
that's
that
not
were
an excuse.
And the people that were legitimately arguing that needs to be taken care of by a
trained professional. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, it's a common element. It's just because of who we are that we focus mostly on the firearms aspect, but it really is a across the board problem. It really needs to be addressed, and that's the view from here.
Yep. So, which one of you guys posted the story on the American flag?
That would be me.
Well, take it away, David.
So this is something that I've noticed, and this is just the most recent. Was that the demonstrators in Cuba that have been shouting freedom and other anti-government epithets, to quote the New York Times, are waving American flags. Mm-hmm. We saw the same thing in Taiwan not that long ago.
Yep.
And we've seen the same thing in other countries at other times where when they want to express a demand for freedom, they wave the American flag.
I mean, I got to say that warms the cockles of my heart.
Yeah. Well, and did you see where the mayor of Miami has asked for the U.S. to help out in Cuba?
Yeah, all I can think of was we don't need another Bay of Pigs.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe if we actually follow through instead of winning out at the end.
I'm sorry. Are you aware of the current state of the federal government?
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I also have a family friend that managed to escape after his brother did not from as Cubans during at the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, I had a friend. Everyone remembers the Elian Gonzalez.
Yes, yeah, the kid that got snatched away
and sent back to Cuba.
Yeah,
his mother died getting him out of Cuba, but his father was still in Cuba, so they sent him back. Well, I had a friend. I didn't know this at the time, but found out later that was his story, except his mother did survive. But,
crazy.
Yeah, so she basically was in one of those little tiny fishing boats with like 50 people that you see pictures of.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to Florida and in kind of a reverse osmosis wound up in New York. I mean, they weren't Jewish, so it was allowed. But I just knew that, he was some type of Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
And he spoke Spanish. He was a Spanish tutor in school.
Okay.
And I really could have used his services didn't realize it at the time. That's a different story.
Well,
that's how I went on to take Spanish 1 3 times.
Right.
But yeah, later I found out that his mother had basically gotten him to the U.S. with nothing but the clothes on their backs and a willingness to do whatever it. And so she was a single mom in Florida for a while. Then she was a single mom in New York. And then she met the man that became his stepfather. And she was one of those, okay, I need to wait tables. Fine, I'll wait tables. Oh, I need to clean the kitchen. Fine, I'll clean the kitchen. Oh, I need to pick up dog poop in the park. Fine, I'll pick up dog poop in the park to take care of my family. Mm-hmm. She was one of those people. And she passed a good amount of that on to him. But so whenever I hear stories from people who have never been to Cuba and possibly don't know anyone from Cuba, or if they do, those are members of the Cuba Communist Party that they know.
Right.
I think of Miguel, or his name was Miguel. Everyone called him Michael. Mm-hmm. It was the 80s, folks. It was a different time. Yeah. But I think of Miguel and some of the stories that came out later that he admitted to about what his mother specifically went through, because he was too young to really understand what was to get away from that. People are not fleeing to Cuba from the U.S.
Yeah.
Unless they're just traveling to pick up cigars.
That's not fleeing. No. Fleeing is a key word in the statement. And the same thing was, like I said recently with Taiwan, is, have you ever seen the meme, I aspire to be the person my dogs thinks I am?
I have seen that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we need to do the same thing in regards to these people under oppressive regimes that wave the American flag as a sign of hope and freedom. That we should aspire to be the people they think we are.
Yeah.
All right. So I think
we're getting a little emotional there. Sorry.
Yeah, we're getting to, actually. I'll use that as a transition. Is the I just got a word that Hold My Guns. We talked to Sarah from Hold My Guns, and she sent an email saying that they have updated their website, so they've got a new fancy pants website. I must say, I was sad to see they have a little locator, and it's not great. It's not great. So these are rookie numbers. We need to pop those out. So go to the show notes.
Yeah.
Hold My Guns is there. I mean, it is new. I am saddened to say that probably not that many people know about them. So get the word out. I'll put the show notes on there. For those of you who are still allowed to post on Facebook, you can post it on Facebook. I will post.
Have you been banned again?
I have been banned for 30 days, and I have decided that at least to certain degrees of not coming back, I am not coming back, because let's be first up, 30 days is just effectively like forever. Like the other times I would watch and just to see when it was come back, and then when officially I got my time back, I would be back in. At this point in time, it's one of those like it's practically forever, and I don't care. So
my funniest, not my story, but the funniest story I heard about that was one of the times Larry Correa got banned from Facebook for something. Mm-hmm. The time was up. He logged back into Facebook, and the first thing he saw was a notification that he was being banned for 30 days.
Oh.
Yep.
For something that he had posted before he was banned for 30 days previously.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Times.
So yeah, because of that nature, I have found Facebook to be a hostile place, and so I've started an account on MeWe, and I'm Weer'd over there, and of course there's also an Assorted Calibers podcast group. I know you gentlemen are ops there, and I gotta say I actually really really like the formatting of MeWe. It's a nice little interface. The problem is there's nobody there, so.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just calling out for this if you guys are, if you're somebody who's also on Facebook and you're in an abusive relationship with it, where it gives you, it treats you all nice, and it treats you like crap, come on over to MeWe, and definitely come on over for some Assorted Calibers podcast hijinks.
And yeah, to get back to Hold My Guns, I think they and Walk the Talk America, those two groups don't get nearly enough airtime, and Hold My Guns is a great project, and I really hope that the people that need to use that service will do so. And and you know what, if you can, and if you actually happen to be near one of the shops that has volunteered for it, I'd say think about giving them some business, because
kick them a few bucks.
That's a pretty good, that's a pretty great service. And unfortunately, I know all three of us know folks that have, for one reason or another, decided that they needed to take their lives. And there's been folks in the gun community that have decided to check out, and there's also, I bring it up every time I talk about this. I had a buddy that was going through a bad divorce and just said, you know what? How about if you hold on to my pistol while I get this taken care of? I don't have any plans or thoughts to use it on her or myself, but let's just not have it in the house.
Yeah, let's just be on the safe side. Unfortunately, the ways that suicide has touched my life is several, and none of them used a firearm. So it's an excellent program. It's very helpful for that specific aspect, but folks need help. They need help.
This is not the primary solution. This is just another option. And again, also especially if you are the lots and lots and lots of listeners that are listening behind the wire in gun unfriendly states, like
our host Weer'd.
Yes, but and I know that, like, come on, let's face it. If you're a gun owner in an anti-gun state, you are the most rabid activists out there, and you guys love listening to podcasts and other Second Amendment stuff. So there's a ton of you out there, and you're hearing this. Go to your local gun shop. Go to your favorite gun shop. Go all the gun shops you go to, and the links are in the show notes. And grab the information for them, and give them a good pitch about it could be considered a revenue stream, and it's for a good cause.
And we're just one thing. You talked about how gun owners in repressive states are the most rabid. You would think so, but I ran the Capital District Friends of NRA committee, and in some of those states, you'll also find the most apathetic.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Or the ones that have been in New York or New Jersey their whole lives and just I think it's perfectly reasonable, and people should have to go through the rigmarole and get training and all that before they can handle or whatever firearms. And
then you've got mines.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna ban any magazine over 7 rounds. I shoot revolvers in 1911, so I don't care.
Yeah, and both these organizations are dealing with folks that are gun owners that aren't necessarily in the best place, and we as a community, for good reasons and bad reasons, are in general kind of afraid of going and seeking the help that they need. Like, I know in California has a law saying that if you just get thrown into a mental institution for observation,
no more guns for you.
No more guns for, I think, 7 years. It's not a permanent prohibition, but you can't have guns for 7 years. And to get thrown into a mental institution for observation, all you need is one person's not even sworn testimony.
Yep.
All you have to do is have a psychiatric professional say, yep, that person is, I think that person might be a danger to him or herself. Let's lock him in a box and watch him for a couple days and see what happens. And there's no procedure other than, yep, I say it's true, therefore cops come pick him up.
And though she could not join us,
I was just saying the same thing. Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and put that in the show notes.
Actually, let's save this one for the closer because I wanted to. We'll go out on this on a high note because I wanted to start with something a little bit more glum, but I wanted to.
That's got it.
Yeah, it sounds good.
To put this story in, and I kind of wanted to put it kind of at the in the anchor position, just because I want people to, when they go away from this, get away from this show, to be thinking about Jessica Watkins. And we talked about her with Paloma Campagna. And yeah, she was one of the people who was at the protest on January 6th. She did enter the Capitol building, according to her. And I don't think that anybody's got any evidence that she broke anything. She was just one of those people that, I mean, there's the great image of the protesters walking in between the velvet ropes in the Capitol.
While one of the Capitol Police holds the door for them.
Exactly.
Yes, she walked in. She didn't threaten anybody. She didn't vandalize anything. She didn't even, as far as they can tell, raise her voice.
Mm-hmm.
She spoke to police officers while she was inside the Capitol. And when she was given an order to go over there or leave or whatever, she followed their orders.
And then, of course, to add further stuff to her case, when all of this was after this all went down and the media started going nuts, she turned herself in, and she, as far as all the official statements are going, she has a clean background and is not an issue. And so for her troubles, first up, they declared since Miss Watkins, though she is female on her legal stuff, and this is her legal name. She was declared male per the jail, and was placed in a male jail in solitary, which is at least, I mean, a little bit of a blessing on one hand, but on the other hand, humans are.
I got to toss a play on words in here.
Yes.
It was a fig leaf on the abuse that followed.
Yes. Oh. Mm-hmm. Yes, and now she is being kept in a jail cell, no garments whatsoever, and the lights are on 24 hours a day.
Yep, and she was also being held without bond.
Yep.
Right. When she, not only did she not try to evade police and capture, she drove in from another state to turn herself in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So this is absolutely horrible miscarriage of justice.
And according to one of the articles, by the way, the being stripped naked and left in the cell with the lights on 24 hours a day for 4 days was retaliation for going on a hunger strike to try to get treatment for an arm injury.
Mm.
That's the allegation.
Yes. And so, and of course, we have both the Gateway Pundit story. And actually, this one was sent to me by, let me get the name real quick. This was sent to us by listener Maria. Thank you so much, Maria, for sending this story. And Aaron also dug up a BuzzFeed clip, or a BuzzFeed story, which is skewed the other way. The Gateway Pundit one definitely has all the information on her clean record. This one is going further on, going that she was a member of the Oath Keepers, of which Paloma was unable to confirm or deny. So it is hard to say. She's definitely associated with them and has definitely done work with them. Is she an actual member? I mean, how does one determine the membership?
Right.
Yeah, they're looking at her. This BuzzFeed article is looking at her considerably less favorably, and it is there to have a look for both sides. But again, the idea that you're keeping a U.S. citizen for essentially minor crimes in a cell that is essentially in an enhanced interrogation technique is beyond the pale.
Yeah, and just to add a little cherry on top of this distressing story, according to one of the articles, she's a former Army Ranger who served in Afghanistan and was forced out of the military after her sexual orientation was discovered. I'm not sure about that because wasn't the whole might have been social pressure, actual military policy, because I thought that policy, the don't ask, don't tell policy, ended years ago. But yeah, and it's just, so here's someone who served her country in a combat zone, who, according to all reports, did not cause harm, does not cause damage, followed all legal orders, left when told to leave, and then turned herself in.
Also was not armed.
Well, no one was armed.
Nobody was armed, but it's
according to the arrest records.
Right.
Exactly. And so, and all of this, I heard, I think Viva Fry talking about, how, the QAnon shaman guy, the guy with the Viking helmet, supposedly was charged because he had a spear.
You mean the flagpole?
Exactly. But so that might have been a weapons charge, but again, I haven't really confirmed it. There was certainly no charges towards for firearms on anybody. So yeah, this is if in fact Miss Watkins is a terrorist, she is the worst one.
Well, yeah, but the insurrection was the worst one ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, worse since the Civil War.
Yeah. Oh, so bad that apparently there's reporters that are having PTSD and don't want to go back to the Capitol.
Well, then they should agree with the Trump administration policy of moving agency offices out to where they actually do the work.
That's racist.
Well, that is true. I hate most humans.
All right. Let us that is a grim story, but I wanted to,
which is still ongoing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it out towards the end, and we'll keep an eye out on Miss Watkins to see how she's doing, and hopefully this will come to an end, and it won't be just an ongoing saga. Hopefully this will be brought to an end and someone will come to their damn senses. But right. You know what? I know David, you got it, but Oddball, do you want to talk about this last story?
Sure.
It's more in Oddball's wheelhouse, honestly.
Okay. So this is one of those, and it's an article that Aaron just posted up from Bearing Arms, talking about how that whole we'll just stop when you give us this, that, or the other. Meanwhile, in the UK,
formerly Great Britain,
right? One of their towns just posted a picture of the contents of their knife amnesty collection. Yeah. So they actually, it's not uncommon in England for them to have knife amnesty bins, which basically think of, a mailbox, etc., where you can deposit your evil and dangerous knives that you don't want anymore, and the authorities will come by and dispose of such dangerous items that you're not allowed to carry on the streets because you're not trusted. You're not trusted with sharp objects.
You're not trustworthy.
Which, well, quite frankly, if you can't be trusted with a sharp object, I don't consider you an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll even go a step forward, step forward and say, like, if you're someone who sees carrying a knife around with you as anything but an extremely useful thing to have, you're almost not human, because, hey, guess what? Like, it was before even it was the pre-humans. One of the first things you started seeing was tools showing up and building tools. And
one of the earliest tools?
Knives.
Yep. And how did we get to the top of the food chain?
Knives.
It wasn't by being the fastest or the strongest. It was because we had tools, starting with knives.
Yep.
Actually, I think first we started with a hammer.
Clubs, but...
Yeah, a hammer.
Clubs and then knives.
Yes, we had to come up with the clubs so we could make the knife.
But, and they proudly are displaying that they have recovered 87 knives.
I love this part. 3
screwdrivers, a handful of spoons, and forks.
If you look at the picture, there's one other implement in there that is hilarious.
The pizza cutter?
That would be it.
I'm also laughing at the knife steel.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
that one's in there too. I mean, that could be stabbing. That's kind of like a big, heavy ice pick.
There's knife steel. There is also a pair of kitchen scissors.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't think those are kitchen scissors. I think those are office scissors.
Yeah.
Okay.
They look much too small. But notice that in the silverware at the bottom, one of the forks is obviously a child's fork.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And one of the spoons is a slotted serving spoon.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a kukri, a bayonet, what looks like could be a Bowie knife, and a couple of medieval-style main gauche or short.
Yeah, looks like they might be mangoches.
Yeah, they're a little on the long side. They might be small swords.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of them are escapees from Hell's Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our kitchen knives, steak knives,
bread knives.
Yeah, I think there might be a Mora or two in there, but
there was. I will note that there is not a single "quote unquote" zombie knife, which was specifically banned in the UK several years ago.
What is a zombie knife?
Most of Oddball's gas station finds.
Okay, got it. Because I was thinking the one in the lower left is probably as close as it gets. It's got that Dayglow green on it.
Yeah, that actually looks like it might even be a dive knife. But the actual image at the very, very top of this article that was also the splash for it. Some of those, like the serrated gladius type knife.
Yeah. Now take that and like make the handles neon green.
Yep. But I mean, just looking through the picture of the knives is like chef's knives, bread knives, paring knives. Mm-hmm. One of them is the forget what that. It's kind of like a sheep's foot blade, but it's a small kitchen paring knife.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of that particular.
Well, the style is Santoku.
Well, yeah, but that's for the larger blades. There was another name for before the Santokus became popular.
Oh, I don't remember what that.
Or just a little paring, because that's a paring knife. Yeah. But it's a paring knife with the downward curve. And there are a couple of actual small paring knives off to the right above the forks.
Mm-hmm.
And then above those. But there's also, if you look, you'll see the steak knives with the blackened blades. Then those are not fighting knives. Those are steak knives. You can tell by the structure. There's a full set of 8.
Now, I will say that apparently the UK has been having significant issues with stabbings. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes stabbings are done with the paring knife or steak knife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're easily concealed.
They're easily concealed, and they're
if it's in the home, they're handy.
Yeah, and they're easy to swipe from the kitchen drawer or whatnot. Now, that said, obviously, I'm a big believer in blaming the person, not the tool.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there's that old saying of yes, I carry a knife because I may need to stab someone, or there might be cheesecake.
Yes.
My favorite part of the article,
a box that needs to be opened.
Actually, I think you might have been heading towards this. Was when you talked about blaming the person. Are you going to the pull quote?
Go ahead.
So in this article, there is a quote from the Burnley and Padiham Police Department located in Lancashire, UK. And this is their post. So the Burnley Town Centre News. And we have emptied the town centre, Amnesty, blah, 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 blah. And then it says, we appreciate some of these items aren't necessarily dangerous, but it's the intent of the user which makes said items dangerous. And it's like, keep going. You're almost there.
Right.
It's like, wait a second. If it's the intent that makes the items dangerous, then what's the problem with people having these?
Yeah. Well,
as long as they don't have the intent.
Yeah. It's like the knife steel. You know, it's one of those, like you said, it's like an ice pick, but not really. But you could club somebody with it, I guess. It is kind of like a baton.
Well, it has a tapered tip. It doesn't come to an actual sharp point, but it has a tapered tip. And somebody thrusts that with some force behind it, it'll penetrate an abdomen.
Yeah, maybe. But
I mean, a t-shirt. If they're wearing anything heavier than a t-shirt, it'll probably get caught up in the claw.
Yep. But it's then the vast majority of these are kitchen knives. And some of them are clearly junk. Like some of them are super duper rusty or ruined. Or
that one at the one chef's knife at the top. And then the Sentoku with the orange handle next to it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, some of those have seen really, really rough days, but I want to know why these things are in this bin. Like, did they take them away from somebody?
No. The citizens voluntarily put those in the box.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you just keep these in your kitchen if you have some vegetables to cut?
Because they have been indoctrinated for so long.
Yeah.
To be afraid.
I mean, it's outrageous.
They live in a constant state of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
although my favorite part is the spoons, because pretty much everyone I've spoken to agrees that the spoons are in there because of sarcasm.
But why a spoon, brother?
Because it'll hurt more.
Well,
but it's since they're not allowed to legally meme anymore, this is as close as they can.
Right. And similarly, I believe I believe that's a white plastic dinner knife. Just to in between the pile of spoons and the fork with the pink handle.
I zoomed in. It does look like a metal handle, but the spoon with the pink handle, I'm pretty sure, is plastic. Or sorry, the fork with the pink handle is, I'm pretty sure, because it's obviously a children's fork because it's got the oversized pink handle and it's got the very small fork head.
But my daughter has several metal fork and spoon sets as well.
Yeah,
from which is small.
It's hard to say because of the flash. I can see why Oddball would think the knife next between that and the spoons.
Okay,
plastic,
yeah. Now
looking at the handle.
Yeah, now that I've zoomed in, yeah, you're right. That is a metal handle.
But the child's fork looks like one of the plastic ones because there's no sheen.
Yeah, but that knife is most definitely the blunt dinner knife that is good for spreading butter on your toast.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, if you look next to the pizza cutter, the wooden handled, that's actually a spreader. That's not a knife.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a bunch of those.
And what the heck is right below the pizza cutter? It looks like a bottle opener, like one of the ones you mount to the wall.
Yeah.
Or it might be one of those things that you can, like little plastic things that you can use to like scrape the gunk off your pans.
Well, it's metal. It's got the sheen of metal in the flash.
Okay.
Or maybe I see what might look like the remnants of hinges on it. Maybe it's a metal lid that broke off of something. That someone just went, you know what? I need to get rid of this. Oh, hey, here's this bin. I'll just throw it in there.
Close enough to a garbage can.
Yeah.
Hey, Oddball, do you know what that is?
The lid to a syrup jar from IHOP.
It is a drop-in auto sear for a single action revolver.
Yeah, the only thing that would have made this picture even better, as an example of the ridiculousness of all of this, is if there had been a melon baller in there.
Oh, tactical melon baller.
Yes, the tactical melon baller.
Yes.
And again, just like guns, you have honestly, that kukri was probably some tourist trap junk.
I was thinking that about the two long, short swords or long knives. It looked like the kind of stuff you get in Spain or whatever.
It being England, they might not be. They might be actual antiques. And
now the bayonet.
Yeah,
the bayonet is a pattern 14.
Right.
Pattern 1914 rifle bayonet. I have the later version for the model 1917.
And even that kukri, even assuming it is tourist junk, it's old tourist junk. So
I'm not so sure it's tourist junk, because if you look at the grip is fairly embellished.
That's actually why I think it might be.
Well, I was going to say it's embellished in the style of Nepal. I mean, I've seen some actual museum items that have that similar understated little, it's the kind of the equivalent of the brass tacks in the Winchester rifle.
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle and understated. It's not gaudy and garish.
Right.
But I've seen similar ones, but it could go either way.
Yeah, it very well, and it very well may be what I'm thinking it is something that was made in Nepal for tourists.
That's possible as well. I mean, I definitely think the two best things here, though, are the slotted spoon and the pizza cup.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the child's fork, that's a close third.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's like that picture that's been circulated on the Thomas the Tank Engine flatware set, and it says, no sale without ID.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there is a bit of that fear of carrying knives that has infected the US. Everybody that I know that has worked in an office environment has had the conversation of well, why do you carry a knife? So, you remember when you asked me to borrow my knife 2 days ago to get into a box?
Yep. Oh yeah, I've had those conversations too.
Mm-hmm.
That was not uncommon when I still lived up in New York, because I would go to a training site and they shipped the books. Right. And so there's these boxes of books that are taped shut with not just, not Scotch tape, but with the fiber reinforced packing tape, because it's a box of books.
Right.
And I'm there, and there's one person there trying to get it open. Person tries it with a letter opener. Another person tries using their keys to saw through it.
Right.
And I pull out my pocket knife and just zip, it's open. They're like, whoa, what was that? It's a knife. It's a pocket.
It's the proper tool for the job.
Yep.
I was actually, it was at a Thanksgiving, and so I was dressed nicely, and someone needed to open something, and so instead of clipped to my pocket, I had my knife riding in my pocket, and so reached into my pocket, out came the knife, zip, 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 and opened up whatever they were looking for. I think it might have been like cutting the foil off the top of a wine bottle, but yeah, and they're like, wait a second, where the hell did that thing come from? I said, it's called a pocket knife for a reason. And they said, well, we better not ask him about his pocket gun. And
you said not a word.
I said not a word, because it was a Smith & Wesson 642 in the other pocket.
And of course, I did figure out a wonderful way to get people to stop asking me to borrow a knife at the office.
Parrot knives.
Yes.
That's what they're for.
And I had one person say, no, seriously, give me a knife. This is a knife. A real knife.
It has all the required components.
No,
it is a real knife.
No, you cannot borrow a knife, but you can have this one.
And after a couple times of that, they stopped asking if they could borrow a knife from me. So, and they knew that I had a rather good knife riding in my pocket, but nope, that was what I was going to give them.
Mm-hmm. And they should be happy.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think, is there anything else you guys got on the agenda?
As far as appropriate news items, we could have a separate roundtable on the head of the Tennessee Firearms Association's comments.
Oh, dear Lord.
Just let's go over them really quickly, and then we'll get the heck out of here.
I don't know, Oddball. Should I name names?
I mean, let's see. I think I've named names in a mag dump. I'm not sure if I've named names here. I mean, everybody can look up who the head of the Tennessee Firearms Association is.
That's true. Mm-hmm. And he's done over the years. He's done quite a bit of good things. He really has helped advance the legal firearms ownership in Tennessee, but he's kind of gone off the rails.
Yeah,
and so he has I just pulled up the TFA Facebook page. And he said, just a few days ago, he posted, Tennessee's GOP-controlled legislature does not believe you have the right to use deadly force to protect your home or business. As far as I understand the law, is if someone breaks into your home, the bar for using deadly force is really, really low. And the same thing as any place else you're legally allowed to be. Or he also posted earlier that day or the day before, the "We Want You, Uncle Sam" poster with "You have constitutional rights only when the state of Tennessee allows it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's been some stuff that he's posted that I've looked at and gone, "Are you?" Oh, that's right. It was the what he posted on July 3rd. I think it was July 3rd. It was that or July 4th, where he basically, yes, here it is. Quote, "My bet is no conservative." Let's hear. We celebrate July 4th to remember, well, some of us do, that in 1770s, our founding fathers resisted a tyrannical government to displace it as the ruling entity over their own state. My bet is no conservatives will be taking up arms this year to oppose the Biden administration or the rhinos in government. None. Perhaps they think things are not as bad as they were in 1770s, but that is a discussion for another post.
Yep. Yeah, so it's like, okay, so when are you going to set the example by taking up arms?
That was one of my big things with that annoyed me about the Threeper movement. Is for those that don't know, that's the people that follow the belief that
3%ers.
Only about 3% of the American colonists were willing to stand up to the British, and that was enough to get the ball rolling on the revolution. And yep. I'll say right now, before I get to talking to my criticism, I'm going to say I think that really no society is going to function nearly as well as one that has a healthy Threeper population, a healthy open carry population, as well as a healthy concealed carry population, because the
healthy part is includes mental health.
Yes, because the open carry people will remind the bad elements that yes, we are allowed to carry guns, and here we are, and we're not afraid of you. The concealed carry element also produces herd immunity, because it means that you can't just look at someone's belt line and see if they have a gun before you can go around and start terrorizing people, because more guns will definitely show up. And then the last bit is the Threepers that essentially are telling people that no, guns aren't about ducks and deer. Guns are designed for opposing tyranny. So I like the idea of pointing out the fact that the Second Amendment is no joke. It's not some
not about deer hunting.
Exactly. It was written by people who had just overthrown their king. And he was their king until they successfully kicked his army's butt and threw him out. And then they were
traitors to the crown.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, that's I'm always I think that's a great statement. The downside is that it seems like most of the Threepers I always see are in gun-friendly states, and they talk about a line in the sand, and they never actually go up to that line.
Yeah, yep. Well, also keep in mind that with any movement, the vast majority are going to be rational, level-headed, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're going to have a small group, say, I don't know, 3%, who are just going to say stuff that makes the rest of them cringe and think things like, please stop helping.
Yeah.
And who are the media going to get quotes from?
Yeah. Well, and not only did our founding fathers just overthrow the legal government of the day, but also what a lot of people don't remember is it wasn't until really the interstate system of the 50s that highwaymen were a thing.
Well, yeah, because there weren't highways, but there were still road bandits.
Well,
motorized bandits were a thing in the 20s.
Highwaymen, as in, road bandits, people, criminal elements that were ambushing travelers, and that kind of stopped when the interstate system happened because it's kind of hard to do much to a traveler who is traveling at 60 or 70 miles an hour.
But this, the head of the TFA was also the same person. Now, he had a very clean, very simple, true constitutional carry bill. I mean, say what you will about what happened during and after. His bill, or the bill that he supported, was a good bill.
Yes.
It was basically, remember earlier I talked about the difference between permitless carry and constitutional carry. His was a true constitutional carry bill. It was basically saying everyone can carry unless they're forbidden. Great. Never had a snowball's chance in hell for political reasons. I don't agree with those reasons. I think that would have been the better bill to pass, but it never gained traction. It had only a few co-sponsors as far as I remember, whereas the bill that Governor Lee put forward, the one that eventually passed, had the full weight of the governor and lieutenant governor behind it.
Right. And frankly, one of the big cons against his bill was that it had his name anywhere near it.
Quite possibly, because some of the stuff that he said about certain legislators is not the way to get their cooperation.
Yeah. He and the sad thing is, his name used to have power on the Hill.
Yep. Yeah, he was a force to be reckoned with. He like I said at the very beginning, he did a lot of good stuff, and then something changed. I don't know what.
Yeah, but
when the governor's bill was gaining more traction and his was not, instead of looking at the reality and saying, okay, I know my bill is better, but it looks like there's no chance it's going to pass, I'm going to try to make the governor's bill better. I'm going to try to see if I can get some tweaks in there, because while this isn't the ultimate goal, it is a good step forward. Nope, he went all or nothing.
Yep.
And he started calling out and name calling the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the members of the legislature who were supporting the governor's bill.
Yeah. He actively campaigned against it.
Yes. And once it was passed, he also was loud about we should repeal that. And anybody who brought up is gun control is passed incrementally because that works. We need to pass gun freedom bills incrementally as well.
Yeah.
If we push for all or nothing, we get nothing. And he basically came out and said that if you support incrementalism, you're not really for gun rights. Paraphrasing only slightly. And it's just, let me see if I can find the actual post, but it's very distressing that, the head of an organization that was quite useful to advance freedom has now basically become poison. It's disappointing is the only word that I can.
Well, you know who's not disappointing?
Our listeners.
Our listeners, every last one of them. Thank you so much for listening. And we got to do a special thanks to everyone who supports us on Patreon. You go to Patreon and go to patreon.com/assorted calibers podcast to sign up, and You get you get blooper reels, which are just hilarious. And David, you've been mining those quite extensively for your segments, which I've appreciated. And
I actually, with some of them lately, I've spent more time on mining the blooper reels than I have on my segment construction.
Yep, but I hope at some point there will be a blooper reel remix produced by you, because I think that would be hilarious. We also have the ACP film tracks. That's where we sit down and we watch various movies, some good, some bad, and we give lovely commentary to them. And we also
sometimes not so lovely commentary.
Yep, and we also have the ACP Mag Dump, which is our unscripted off-topic story. It's a show. It's similar to this. This kind of was born from the Mag Dump style, but the Mag Dump is much more free and loose. So it often covers stuff that is not as gun related as we do here at ACP.
Uncensored and too hot for regular time slots.
That's right.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening, and thanks to those of you who support us on Patreon. And you can get more from me at my blog. That's weird.world.com. And where can we find you other goons?
Well, I'm in addition to my ACP segment, I'm also a contributor on the Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. So basically, it's a text version of a variety show.
Mm-hmm. And Oddball?
And you can find more of me at gunscarstech.com, and of course over at the Facebook Assorted Calibers Facebook page, and now over at MeWe too. If you're not a member of those pages, fix that.
Fix it. And of course, also want to give a shout out to Erin Paulette, who is just having a bit of a rough day. And so, you can get her at Lurking Rhythmically. I believe it's lurkingrhythmically.blogspot.com. And of course, Operation Blazing Sword and Pink Pistols. Just Google them. They're a thing. So, thank you all for listening. I don't have a catchy Erin sign off, so I'm just going to say thank you so much for listening, and we will see you for the next Assorted Calibers podcast.
Our amusement at government antics are assorted, and so is our podcast.
Good night, folks.
Good night, everybody.